when we watched it, it was your second time watching it, and you thought it was that good that you watched it the second time. And I wanted to ask, okay, so I guess I would have to spoiler tag, but this is like almost like a 3 month movie release at this point, right? Should I?
I think so.
Should we do a spoiler tag?
Yeah, might as well.
Okay,
Some
I'll put
people
a
are probably still
spoiler.
waiting for it.
Okay, I'll put a spoiler tag, and then I'll put a skip here
Yeah.
to time code. But anyways, so second time watching it, did you find anything different from the film, or should we just do first impressions first?
You can do first impressions first and then go into it.
Okay, so let's just do first impressions, and then we'll get into your ideas. Wait, what you caught on a second viewing?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so what was your first impressions of Shang-Chi?
For me personally, I felt like it seemed very relatable.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've mentioned it in previous podcasts before, but I tend to like after I watch anything that's like new to me, I always do look into like watching videos of reviews, discussions about it, so and so yada yada. And I find it very interesting that like they marketed it towards kind of like Asians universally, but
Mm-hmm.
the story itself, it to me felt much more like Asian American centric because it felt very like relatable to me. Like there are a lot of moments in the film where you're like watching it and you get it, right? Like there's one part where I think the character that Ronnie is it Ronnie Chen? Well,
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah, Mani Chen from the Daily Show.
right, yeah. So he plays a character and he goes, "Ah, you speak ABC. I got you." And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Ah, I get that." And like a whole bunch of other things that I was just like, "Ah, this is very relatable to me."
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It kind of reminded me of, yeah, like this idea, or this like the idea of like being Asian American. So like this film is just kind of like that I wouldn't say example, or like it is an attempt to describe the Asian American immigrant experience almost.
Mhm.
And for the most part, the fact that it was a film interested in only talking about this family drama and not a grander moral situation, I thought that that really worked to the film's like benefit.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so that
I
was my, I was gonna say,
No, no, go first, go
yeah, I was
first.
gonna say my first impressions, I did very much enjoyed the movie through and through. You know, Aquafina's great in that role, and honestly, she's great in any of the roles that she has in front of her.
The
Uh,
many roles.
yeah, the many roles, and kind of, I might relate to her as a character a bit more than most, because it just seems like, oh, this is somebody that like seems to be good in a lot of things, but also feels um like what's that word, disaffected, or just kind of like beat down by expectations of other people,
Mhm.
and then like has to kind of like find her own path almost, and then
Yeah.
eventually, hopefully, that path leads to a spot in the Avengers.
That'd be kind of cool, huh?
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah.
I'm very thankful that like to me it feels like the film was written really well.
Hmm.
I kind of actually like how the film's not really like Shang-Chi centric. It's very like very grounded in the idea of like family and
Hmm.
familial expectations. And Tony Leung's character just felt very good to me as well. Like
Hmm.
as a villain, he's I think very relatable in a way. Well, not exactly, but I think like as you're watching it and you see his motivation to do things, you're like, ah, I get
Hmm.
it. I mean, the way you're choosing to do it is wrong, but I understand why you're doing it.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. This might be Tony Leung's American film debut also.
That's what I heard. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it is his first film as well in the U.S.
But it doesn't mean that he's not a legendary actor in his own right. Like, he was in um sorry, my brain is not working. He's in that Chow Yun Fat movie, A Better Tomorrow, right?
Oh yeah, he's in a lot of Chow Yun Fat movies.
Yeah, and then In the Mood for Love, that's the one that a lot of people they remember. Um I guess another one is Happy Together. That's the one that's the LGBTQ movie that he's in.
Mm-hmm.
One of his first films. So um he's a legendary Hong Kong filmmaker, right? He's from Hong Kong. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
He
yeah,
he
so
got started in like the original TVB shows, and TVB is like essentially uh the Chinese equivalent of what a K drama would be.
oh really? And
Mm-hmm.
that's where that's the central clearinghouse for all of Hong Kong directed dramas then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's great in that role. And it made me feel, or it made me think, is like, wait a minute, has he not been in any other American productions Before then, and I felt like I couldn't tell. Like he's just that great of an actor.
He's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the so given that you saw this movie a second time, was there anything that you picked up that surprised you, or anything that you noticed in particular?
Mm, like since it's been a little while since I last watched it, like off the top of my head, I can't remember like every single thing if I picked up anything. More so I used my second viewing of it as a way to kind of like look at potentially details that I missed or
Mm-hmm.
things that were like I wanted to see if there was any like details they like sprinkled in that if I wasn't paying attention the first time, I could have picked up the second time.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it's just more so the experience I got the second time, like watching it through, was just like kind of like, yeah, this is a very solid, good movie. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the characters to me seem very, very fleshed out, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really feel like there's any real like any character that was written too poorly or anything like that. Like I liked all of the stories that they wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but on the second viewing, I think obviously because it's a Marvel film, they have like post credit scenes and stuff like that. So the second time around when I was watching it, I was like thinking to myself, like obviously there's like a scene where Shang-Chi's sister is like taking over her father's empire and stuff like that. And when
Mm-hmm.
Shang-Chi thinks like, oh, she's like dismantling it. But it does seem like that feels to me like a loose end. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious where they'll go with that. So
Yeah, there was some people that really believes that in that film in particular, or like that, not Shang-Chi itself, but like that scene is setting up a a sort of a Marvel Mortal Kombat situation. like
yeah,
just imagine like one-on-one combat between like Shang-Chi versus what Falcon or something.
yeah,
Um and I'm sure that there is a comic book logic to that, and it is not limited to Marvel versus Capcom. But who knows? Who knows if that's going to be the case?
right.
Uh, but seeing that scene though, it just kind of like reiterated that like within that film, there's a lot of strong female characters,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just female characters that are physically strong, but also like in a sense mentally, and not, I wouldn't say mentally, but like in of their mind and of their agency are
Mm-hmm.
very independent.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was just something that I wanted to highlight, or at least get an idea of.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and that being said, so besides Aquafina, there's also Michelle Yeoh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she plays the like the aunt, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, the aunt character, and kind of like the Shang-Chi's last teacher almost. She doesn't
Yeah.
die, but like imparts a an understanding or wisdom onto Shang-Chi that I guess he doesn't like have yet,
Yeah.
but he understands that the only person that ever defeated his dad was his mother, and so therefore he must learn. And so
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. And then other than that, I feel like it's also starting up this conversation. Okay, so this is broader Marvel stuff, but this conversation of like multiverses, because where they were in like in that universe, it was separate from Earth as far as they could understand, at least what other people were explaining to me, that that is a different like world of its own with its
Oh
own
yeah.
rules. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where we get Marvin, not Marvin, Marlin, whatever that faceless animal was.
The faceless animal?
Yeah.
I need to think.
Oh, dude, Morris.
Oh, Morris.
Morris.
I was like, Marlin? Who's Marlin? Like Merlin? Like the wizard?
What, you know, it might as well been a wizard.
Well,
It
so
had no face.
I looked into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like in hindsight, a lot of the characters that they use that were kind of like mythical creatures are actually tied to like Asian
Mm-hmm.
historical lore. Like I didn't pick this up on the first watch, but I picked it up on the second one.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning when whenever somebody goes into Talo, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what it's called, Tylo. I forgot what
Mm-hmm.
exactly it was, but um there whenever the fat like the group of people who live there come out, there's always two lion dogs sitting behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And that very much is like tied to like how in like Asian belief you usually have two foo dogs sitting at the front of your house, and it's kind of like it guards your house.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a sign of like protection almost. And that was like one thing I was like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, well, you know, there was like the nine-tailed fox, and you know, all of these like different representations of like ancient, you know, East Asian myths, you know,
Mm-hmm.
all in there. So I imagine like it's a very relatable thing of the culture, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Actually, like in hindsight, I do wonder, like, because now that I'm like thinking about it, Mulan actually used like a phoenix in there, right? And obviously the reception to that was subpar to least, and a
At
lot of
best.
people didn't really like Mulan, but the general consensus is Shang-Chi is a really good film. And in like very in like a very distant way, they're kind of related in kind of the things that they impart in their films.
Mm-hmm.
They have a wide array of Asian representation in the films.
Mm-hmm.
They do utilize mythological creatures that are a part of like Asian stories and history.
Well,
um
yeah, I think that's what a lot of reviewers had tied the film with, like the moniker of like this movie is grounded, you know,
mhm,
like the saying that this film understands what it wants to talk about and doesn't overstay its welcome. And I think that's what other people have levied the criticisms from Mulan, is that, you know, it's besides it being politically not great,
mhm,
um it also had issues where it wanted to be something that the original wasn't
yeah.
necessarily. You know, there was some fantastical elements, you know, like animals and like of course Mushu, but it's like the the modern version of Mulan itself was preoccupied in this idea that it had to be, in, you know, in my opinion, a version of those modern historical Chinese films right now that
Mhm,
are kind of, you know, they are spectacle, you know, probably for a specific reason, um and especially a political reason, you know. It's, you know, films as much as we want films to be apolitical, a lot of modern Chinese cinema is built upon this historical idea of like, I guess, Asian heroics, and then bled into that is like this idea of like super heroine or hero and or something like that. So
yeah.
I think it was kind of like pushed to too many ideas instead of what happened in Shang-Chi, that there was a director and a group of writers that had a specific vision for what this character was going to go through. and wasn't preoccupied with setting up stuff in future Marvel films.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we're good on Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we want to talk about? Well, post credit scenes, we're going to be leading into what Spider-Man No Way Home, given the modern or post Thanos storyline,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of, I think we're back to Marvel somewhat being a little disjointed, not in a negative way, but like focus on bringing us new characters, sort
Mm-hmm.
of, into the fold. So that's what I see these coming films being, just kind of like its own encapsulating story.
Right.
And speaking of, another Marvel film just came out this week too, Venom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know how that one's doing yet.
I heard nothing but good reviews from reviewers, but I know reviewers are different from audience scores, so who knows?
Yeah. So
We'll
we'll
see.
see.